bad feeling about this.
Now, no matter how you look at it, if Ben did have survived the zombie outbreak of 68, then what would he have been doing, since there would be a large time gap for him to go through after the events of Night of the Living Dead? Because Dawn of the Dead takes place exactly 10 years after that, while Return of the Living Dead takes place 17 years after that. So, either way, he would have to survive a very long time gap. But in the Romero timeline, and let's say that he joined some kind of zombie elimination task force during the 10 years. So then, by the time we reach Dawn of the Dead, he should already have experience with killing this undead menace. This can also apply in the Russo timeline. However, but like I mentioned before, he would have to wait about 18 years for Return of the Living Dead 1 to occur. So, but this is where everything gets tricky here on out.
Now, this brings us to the Return of the Living Dead.
If Ben had survived all the way to Return of the Living Dead, and been in Louisville, Kentucky, then he would have basically have ended up just as dead as this guy right here. Simply because he wouldn't have been hanging out with the teenagers, and if he was working at the medical supply plant, then the whole timeline would have been completely averted. Him working at the mortuary wouldn't have made a difference either, simply because if he did work at the mortuary, then the film would have taken place exactly how it did, while if he was a police officer, then he would have basically gotten killed along with the cops, unless if he made a run for it. If he was a cop or an army soldier, then he would have been the commando of the film, especially if he managed to escape the zombies. And the film would just cut to and from him from time to time, because he would just serve a supporting role. Yes, something like this, except if he did escape from the zombies and chose not to go into the medical supply plant, which if he had, then the film would have ended exactly the same way with him dying. But if he didn't, then this could lead to a serious issue. For if he ran into the city, then the zombies would obviously chase after him, and this would just make the problem 100 times worse. So now you would have zombies all over Louisville, and then the army would send a nuclear warhead to destroy the entire city. So the only way Ben could have survived all of this, if he didn't prevent it from happening, is if he had somehow escaped Louisville before the nuclear warhead was dropped, and thus we wouldn't see him again until the next film. However, everyone else would be dead.
Now, welcome to Return of the Living Dead 2.
That film would have just happened exactly the same, except for if Ben came into the city with those 3 army personnel, then Ed and Joy would have been killed immediately, while Brenda would be taken into protective custody. So in conclusion, you probably noticed that it was either for the best, or it wouldn't have freaking mattered if Ben had died in the original Night of the Living Dead. But personally, I think it would have been great if he had came back, even if it did seem either pointless or detrimental. But at least, unlike the Romero timeline, where he was just downplayed all the way to the end and then freaking dies, while here in the Russo timeline, he's downplayed, but at least gets a happy ending. Now, notice that I didn't mention anything regarding Return to the Living Dead 3, 4, and 5, let alone Land of the Dead. And the reason for that is because Ben would not have survived all the way up to any of those films simply because the actor Dwayne Jones has been dead since 1988. And he wouldn't have changed those films anyway, so they remain the same.
Plus, they blow Tarman's rotten asshole.
Ah, yes, there is one thing I forgot. Hope is such a splendid thing.